1. The shadow with the stick. The city is cold, dark, and smells like burnt coal. It's 1845, and we are in the heart of industrial America. The wind howls through the narrow, filthy alleys of New York. In this era, if you don't wake up, you don't eat. But there are no alarms, no iPhones. Just a heavy, terrifying silence. Suddenly, a rhythmic sound breaks the stillness. Tap, tap, tap. A shadow moves through the fog. This isn't a thief. This isn't a ghost. This is the knocker-up, the man who owns your morning. He carries a long, sinister-looking bamboo pole, reaching up to the second-story windows. He is a professional sleep killer. He doesn't just knock, he hunts for your consciousness. He will rattle that glass with the persistence of a demon until he sees your miserable, tired face pressed against the pane. No snooze button exists here. If you try to ignore him, he will beat that window until the glass vibrates like it's about to shatter. But wait, let's add some real spice. Imagine the pea shooters. These were the snipers of the morning. Picture a woman named Mary Smith. She doesn't use a stick. She stands in the middle of the street with a blowpipe and a pocket full of dried peas. Hew, hew, hew. She fires them like bullets at your window. Imagine being in the middle of a beautiful dream, and suddenly, it sounds like a machine gun is hitting your bedroom glass. That's how the working class of the 19th century was dragged out of bed. The drama gets even deeper. The knocker-up was the keeper of secrets. They saw the affairs, the crimes, and the midnight runners. They were the only ones awake in a city of the dead. But there was a darker side, the snooze bribe. If you hated your neighbor or wanted a coworker to get fired, you could pay the knocker-up a few extra pennies to forget to knock on their door. With one skipped window, a man's career was destroyed by sunrise. And then there's the ultimate mindbender. The paradox of the first awakener. If the knocker-up wakes the city, who wakes the knocker-up? Some were night dwellers who never slept, living on a diet of cheap whiskey and adrenaline. Others were part of a secret chain where one person would wake the next, creating a human circuit of time. This was a world where time was a person, not a machine. But a revolution was coming. A cold metallic heart was beating in the workshops of Connecticut. An invention was being born that would put these human alarms out of business, but not before it caused absolute chaos. These first mechanical alarms weren't just clocks. They were terrifying contraptions that felt like they were designed by madmen. The era of the human touch was ending, and the era of the mechanical scream was about to begin. Next up, Chapter 2, The Mechanical Scream. The human knocker-up was reliable, but humans are expensive. Factory owners wanted something cheaper, something heartless. They wanted a machine that didn't need a salary or a coat. Enter the first mechanical alarm clocks of the mid-1800s. But forget the soft beep-beep of today. These early American inventions were designed to be instruments of psychological warfare. Imagine waking up not to a gentle tap on your window, but to a sound like a steam engine exploding in your bedroom. One of the first patented alarms in the US didn't just ring. It featured a heavy brass bell that would vibrate so violently, it would often dance off the table and crash onto the floor. If the sound didn't wake you, the mini earthquake in your room certainly would. The masala factor, the death trap alarms. There were inventors who thought sound wasn't enough. They believed the only way to wake a tired worker was through sheer terror. One famous design involved a heavy weight suspended over the sleeper's head. When the clock hit the set hour, the mechanism would release, and a wooden block, or sometimes a cold splash of water, would literally fall on the person's face. Imagine the trauma. You are dreaming of a peaceful life, and suddenly, bam! A wooden plank hits your chest. This wasn't waking up. This was surviving an assault every single morning. The social war, man versus machine. But the knocker-ups didn't go down without a fight. They mocked these new machines. They told people, a clock can't tell if you're actually awake. A clock won't keep knocking until you show your face. And they were right. Early clocks were notorious for failing. They would wind down, the springs would snap, or they would go off 3 hours early. In the pubs of Boston and Chicago, workers debated, do you trust the old man with the stick or the brass devil on the shelf? The dark mystery, the radium shadow. As these clocks became more popular, the masala turned dark and deadly. To make clocks visible in the dark, American factories started using a magical new substance, radium. They hired young women, the radium girls, to paint the clock dial so they would glow. These women were told the paint was harmless. They would lick the brushes to get a fine point, literally swallowing glowing poison every day. While the rich were buying these glowing miracle clocks to replace their knocker-ups, the women making them were beginning to glow in the dark themselves. And then, their bones began to break. The alarm clock wasn't just killing a profession, it was starting to claim lives. The cliffhanger. The knocker-ups were laughing. The machines were failing, and the factories were glowing with a deadly light. But then, a massive event changed the world forever. A time when waking up wasn't just for work, it was for war. In the next chapter, we look at how the Great Wars turned the alarm clock from a luxury into a weapon, and why the knocker-up finally took their last walk through the fog. Next, chapter 3, the last knock of the ghost. The world was changing, but the knocker-up was stubborn. Even as mechanical clocks started appearing in stores, many workers still didn't trust them. A machine could break, but Jeremiah and his bamboo pole, they were as reliable as the sunrise. But then, the year 1914 arrived. The Great War, World War I, broke out, and this was the moment the human alarm clock started to face its true extinction. The masala factor, the war on the streets. Imagine the scene. Millions of young men, the very people the knocker-ups used to wake for factory work, were now being shipped off to the trenches of Europe. The streets of America and Britain became quiet. The rhythm of the morning was broken. But the real drama was happening back home. With the men gone, women stepped into the factories. These women didn't have time for the old ways. They needed precision. The factories were now producing weapons, shells, and tanks 24/7. Time wasn't just money anymore. Time was blood. The factory started installing massive, ear-splitting steam whistles that could be heard for miles. Why pay a man to knock on 50 doors when one giant whistle could wake up an entire zip code? The betrayal of the knocker-up. But here's the spicy part of the story. During the war, something called blackout regulations was introduced. Cities had to stay dark so enemy planes couldn't see them. The knocker-ups, moving through the streets with their lanterns or striking matches to see their lists, became a liability. They were seen as beacons for the enemy. Suddenly, the friendly neighborhood knocker-up was being looked at with suspicion. Why are you wandering the streets in the dark? Are you signaling the enemy? The profession that once represented safety and routine was now draped in the shadow of war and paranoia. The final stand. The human versus the factory whistle. There's a legendary story of a knocker-up in a small industrial town who tried to out-knock the factory whistle. Every morning, he would go to his clients' houses 10 minutes before the whistle, just to prove he was better. He wanted to show that a human touch was superior to a cold, mechanical scream, but he was fighting a losing battle. The mechanical alarm clock was becoming cheaper, smaller, and, for the first time, patriotic. A clock in every home became a symbol of a modern, disciplined nation. The knocker-ups were becoming relics, like ghosts from a past that the world wanted to forget. The dark mystery, the silent mourning. As the war ended, the soldiers returned, but they brought back something called shell shock, PTSD. For these men, the sudden, violent thwack of a bamboo pole or the pop of a pea shooter on their window wasn't just a wake-up call. It was a trigger. It sounded like gunfire. It sounded like the trenches. The very sound that had built the Industrial Revolution was now causing mental breakdowns in the heroes returning home. The city had to go quiet. The knocker-up's pole was finally lowered. The cliffhanger. By the 1920s, the knocker-up was a dying breed. But just when we thought the human alarm was dead, a new kind of clock emerged. It wasn't made of brass or wood. It was invisible, and it lived inside our very brains. In the next chapter, we'll explore the science of the sun, how people before the 1800s used biological masala to wake up, and a terrifying experiment that proved humans have a clock that can be manipulated by light or darkness. Next are 4. The internal explosion. Before the man with the stick, before the screaming brass bell, there was nothing but the human body and the raw power of nature. But don't be fooled. Our ancestors weren't just waking up with the birds. They had developed some of the most bizarre and, frankly, uncomfortable ways to force their bodies out of sleep. Imagine you are a Native American warrior or a traveler in the early colonies of the United States. You don't have a clock, but you have a meeting at dawn. What do? You use the bladder method, the masala factor, the water torture. This is as raw as it gets. Historical records show that warriors would drink massive amounts of water right before hitting the hay. Why? Because they knew their biology better than any machine. They would calculate exactly how much water would force their bladder to explode by 4 a.m. Imagine the scene. You are in a deep, peaceful sleep, but inside your body, a biological ticking bomb is going off. There is no snooze button for your bladder. You either get up or you ruin your bed. This was the first unignorable alarm clock in human history. It wasn't elegant, but it was 100% effective. The science of the sun, the pineal mystery. But then, something even more mysterious comes into play. Deep inside your brain, there is a tiny pine cone-shaped gland called the pineal gland. Ancient people called it the third eye. Long before science understood melatonin, humans knew that light was a drug. In early American settlements, houses were built with a specific morning orientation. The windows weren't just for a view, they were designed to attack the sleeper. They were positioned so that the very first ray of the sun would hit the pillow directly. It was a cinematic awakening. The light would pierce through the darkness, hitting your eyelids and triggering a chemical reaction that literally boiled the sleep out of your brain. The dark twist, the first sleep and second sleep. But here is the part that will truly haunt your viewers. Did you know that for centuries, humans didn't sleep for 8 hours straight? This is the lost history of segmented sleep. People would go to bed at 8 p.m., wake up at midnight, completely alert, and spend 2 hours doing things. They would talk, they would pray, they would even visit neighbors. Then, they would go back for their second sleep. The alarm back then wasn't a sound. It was a natural rhythm. But when the Industrial Revolution arrived, they stole our midnight break. They forced us to sleep in one solid block so we could work like machines. We lost our second sleep, and in doing so, we might have lost a part of our human soul. The mystery of the internal knocker. Have you ever noticed that sometimes you wake up exactly 1 minute before your alarm goes off? It's creepy, right? In the 1700s, people believed this was a spiritual gift. They thought an angel or a spirit was whispering in their ear to wake them up. But science has a darker explanation. Your brain is so terrified of being jolted awake by a loud noise or a stick on the window that it creates a state of high-stress anticipation. Your body releases a hormone called adrenocorticotropin. Essentially, your brain shocks you awake early just to save you from the trauma of the alarm. The cliffhanger. We've seen the bladder method, the sun trap windows, and the mystery of the internal clock. But as America grew, light became something we could control. And with the invention of the light bulb, we didn't just change the way we wake up. We declared war on the night itself. In the next chapter, we dive into the electric nightmare. How Thomas Edison's light bulb didn't just give us light, it destroyed our internal clocks and created a world where the sun never sets, leading to a new kind of alarm that lives inside our pockets. Nectar 5. The Death of the Night. The year is 1879. Until this moment, the world was divided into two colors, the golden yellow of the sun and the pitch black of the night. When the sun went down, the world stopped. But in a small laboratory in Menlo Park, New Jersey, a man named Thomas Edison was about to flip a switch that would change our biology forever. The masala factor, the invention that stole sleep. Edison didn't just invent a light bulb, he invented a 24-hour cycle. Before this, the knocker-up only worked in the morning. But with the electric bulb, the morning could be whenever the boss said so. The factory owners realized that if they had light, they didn't need to stop the machines at sunset. This was the birth of the night shift. Imagine the horror of the first workers who were told they had to sleep during the day and work at night. Their bodies screamed in protest. The sun was shining outside, birds were chirping, but they had to force themselves into darkness. For the first time in human history, we weren't waking up with the sun, we were waking up against it. The psychological war, the Edison philosophy. Thomas Edison himself was a sleep hater. He famously called sleep a heritage from our cave days and a waste of time. He only slept 4 hours a day. He wanted to create an America that never slept. But there was a dark side. Without the knocker-up to gently tap on the window at dawn, and with the sun no longer being the signal to wake up, people became desynchronized. Their internal clocks, that beautiful biological rhythm we talked about, were shattered. The light bulb was like a drug that kept the brain in a constant state of emergency. The rise of the anxious alarm. Because people were working late under electric lights, they were more tired than ever before. The knocker-up stick wasn't enough anymore. People were sleeping through the pea shooters. They needed something more violent. This led to the golden age of the American alarm clock. Companies like Westclocks in Illinois started mass-producing the Big Ben. It was loud, it was heavy, and it was everywhere. But here's the spicy twist. People started becoming addicted to the alarm. They became so afraid of missing the mechanical scream that a new phenomenon was born: sleep anxiety. The dark mystery, the blue light ancestor. You think blue light from your smartphone is a new problem? Think again. The very first electric streetlights in American cities were so bright and so unnatural that people reported seeing birds singing at 2 a.m. and flowers blooming in the middle of the night. Humans were no different. Our brains were being tricked. We were staying up later, working harder, and for the first time, we started using caffeine as a weapon. The coffee break became the new knocker-up. We weren't being woken by a stick on the glass. We were being woken by a chemical jolt to the heart. The cliffhanger. The light bulb had conquered the night, and the mechanical clock had conquered the room. But as the 20th century roared forward, the alarm started to change shape. It moved from the bedside table to the wrist, and eventually, into the very air we breathe. In the next chapter, we dive into the wristwatch revolution, how a bloody war in the trenches made time a part of our bodies, and how the world's most famous alarm clock wasn't a clock at all, but a massive, terrifying tower that could be heard across entire oceans. The world as we know it was about to change forever. In this chapter, we dive into the blood-stained mud of 1914, where time stopped being a luxury and became a weapon. We will explore how the legendary trench watch was born out of sheer desperation, and how it killed the profession of the knocker-up. This is a story of how manliness was redefined by a ticking dial, and how a glowing green poison known as radium turned the morning alarm into a silent, radioactive killer. Get ready to witness the moment when time moved from the pocket to the pulse. The year's 1914. The air is thick with the smell of gunpowder and wet earth. Before this moment, if you saw an American man wearing a watch on his wrist, you would have laughed. "That's a woman's trinket," they would say. Real men carried heavy gold pocket watches tucked away near their hearts. But the mud and blood of the Great War didn't care for tradition. It demanded something much more dangerous. Imagine a soldier named Jack, hunkered down in a rat-infested trench in France. It's 4:59 a.m. the 0 hour is 1 minute away. In 60 seconds, thousands of men must rise as one and charge into a storm of lead. Jack can't fumble with a pocket watch while holding a bolt-action rifle. He needs to see his destiny at a glance. In a desperate move of survival, he and his brothers take their pocket watches, solder metal loops onto them, and strap them to their wrists with rugged leather. This was the birth of the trench watch. It was no longer just a clock, it was a pulse of war strapped directly to the skin. For the first time in human history, time wasn't something you checked, it was something that beat against your veins. The tick-tick-tick was a countdown to a funeral or a victory. The gentle thwack of the knocker-up's bamboo pole back home felt like a fairy tale. Out here, time was a cold-blooded officer, and its alarm was the scream of 1,000 whistles. When the survivors returned to the streets of New York and Chicago, they didn't take those watches off. They had become addicted to the military precision of the trenches. They looked at the old knocker-ups wandering the foggy alleys and saw ghosts of a dead era. Why wait for an old man with a stick, they mocked, when I have the heartbeat of a soldier on my wrist? The wristwatch became the ultimate masala of the 1920s, a symbol of the modern, disciplined man who owned his own time. But the story turns into a glowing nightmare. People wanted to see their alarms in the dark, especially during the blackouts of war. To satisfy this, factories began using a magical new paint made of radium. They hired young women, the radium girls, to paint the dials so they would glow like emeralds in the night. These women were told the paint was safe. To get a razor-sharp point on their brushes, they were taught to lip, dip, and paint, licking the glowing poison hundreds of times a day. The alarm was now a radioactive demon. While the wealthy bought these glowing watches to replace their human alarm clocks, the girls making them were beginning to glow in the dark themselves. Their teeth fell out, their jaws crumbled into dust, but the clocks kept ticking. The modern alarm wasn't just killing a profession, it was literally built on the glowing bones of the working class. The knocker-up's pole was finally lowered for good. The city was no longer woken by a friendly face at the window, but by a cold, radioactive green glow. We had traded the human touch for a pulse of poison, and the world would never be quiet again. What if I told you that in the 1960s the sun was fired and a vibrating atom became your new god? In this chapter, we blast off into the high-stakes world of the Cold War and the space race. We are moving from the mechanical pulse of the wristwatch into the invisible world of the atomic clock. This is the era where time became so precise it could measure the heartbeat of a star, but it also became a tool to manipulate the human mind. We will explore the terrifying cave experiments where humans were buried alive to see if they could survive without a clock, and how the snooze button was invented to trap us in a never-ending cycle of exhaustion. This is the story of how we tried to kill sleep itself. The year is 1955. The world is no longer just fighting for land, it is fighting for nanoseconds. In the heart of the Cold War, a 1-second mistake didn't just mean being late for work, it meant a nuclear missile hitting the wrong city. To survive, America needed a new kind of alarm. They needed something that didn't rely on gears, springs, or human hands. They created the atomic clock. This wasn't a device, it was a beast. It measured the oscillations of atoms, so accurate that it wouldn't lose a single second in 300 million years. But as we mastered the atom, we lost our grip on our own souls. The human alarm was officially a relic of the past. The knocker-up was replaced by a cold humming frequency that dictated the rhythm of every city on Earth. But the masala was hidden in the darkness of space. As NASA prepared to send astronauts to the moon, they faced a nightmare. Space has no morning. Every 90 minutes, the sun rises and sets as you orbit the planet. The human brain, built over millions of years to wake with the sun, began to melt down. To fix this, scientists turned humans into lab rats. They took volunteers and locked them in pitch-black underground caves for months. No sun, no clocks, no contact. The results were haunting. Without an alarm or the light of day, the human body drifted into chaos. Some stayed awake for 50 hours. Others slept for days. Their internal knocker-up was broken. To survive the space age, the government had to invent artificial mornings, using chemical injections and high-intensity light blasts to force the brain to wake up. We were no longer biological beings. We were being reprogrammed like computers. Back in the American suburbs, a new psychological weapon was released in the bedroom, the snooze button. Introduced by General Electric as a luxury, it was actually a trap. By hitting snooze, you were tricking your brain into entering a new sleep cycle, only to rip it out again 9 minutes later. This created a new generation of walking dead, people who were physically awake but mentally trapped in a fog of sleep inertia. The gentle bamboo stick of the 1800s was gone. In its place was a radioactive, atomic-powered, snooze-looping machine that didn't want you to wake up fresh. It wanted you to wake up productive. We had conquered the atom, but we had become slaves to its vibration. The alarm was no longer outside your window. It was a war being fought inside your nervous system. Your smartphone doesn't just wake you up. It hijacks your soul before you've even opened your eyes. In this chapter, we enter the neon-lit era of the digital revolution. We are moving away from the cold metal of atomic clocks and into the addictive glow of the iPhone. This is the story of how the alarm clock became a spy. We will explore the chilling reality of phantom alarm syndrome, where people hear their ringtones in empty rooms, and how sleep-tracking apps turned our bedrooms into data centers. This is the moment when the human alarm was replaced by a predatory algorithm designed to keep you awake, even when it's telling you to sleep. The year is 2007. A man in a black turtleneck stands on a stage and pulls a sliver of glass and silicone from his pocket. At that moment, the bedside alarm clock was sentenced to death. The smartphone didn't just replace the clock, it became a Trojan horse. In the 1800s, the knocker-up gave you a tap on the window and left you in peace. Today, the digital alarm demands your total surrender. The masala here is a psychological horror known as phantom alarm syndrome. Thousands of people across America report hearing their specific alarm tone, that sharp radar or marimba sound, while they are in the shower, driving, or walking in a park. But there is no phone ringing. Their brains have been so deeply traumatized by the stress of the morning jolt that they are hallucinating the sound. We have been rewired. The machine has moved from the nightstand into the very gray matter of our brains. But the digital betrayal goes deeper. Silicon Valley realized that sleep is the only time they can't sell you something. So they created smart alarms. These apps sit under your pillow, listening to your snoring, tracking your movements, and recording your heartbeat. We have invited a global surveillance system into our most private moments. We traded the human connection of the knocker-up for an algorithm that treats our rest like a product to be analyzed and sold. And then, there is the blue light trap. Your brain is millions of years old. It thinks light means sun. When you reach for your phone to hit snooze, that blue light hits your retinas and sends a chemical emergency signal to your brain. The sun is exploding! It kills your natural sleep hormones instantly. We have created a generation that is perpetually exhausted, living in a digital fog, waking up to a screen instead of a soul. The ghost of Jeremiah, the knocker-up, is standing in the shadows of history, watching us. He used a wooden stick to wake us for a day of labor. Today, we use a glowing brick that wakes us up for a day of anxiety. We are the most connected humans to ever live, yet we wake up more tired than the coal miners of the uthte. What if the secret to the future of sleep is hidden in a 200-year-old wooden stick? In this chapter, we enter the world of the ultra-rich and the biohackers. From Silicon Valley to the high-tech labs of Europe, humanity is trying to undo the damage of the last century. This is the story of the Great Return. We will explore how millionaires are spending fortunes on sunrise lamps to mimic the sun and smart mattresses that use thermal shock to wake the body. It's the ultimate masala irony. We fired the knocker-up to be modern, and now we are paying thousands of dollars to simulate his touch. This is the era of reclaiming the morning from the machines. The year is 2026. The world is waking up, but not to the sound of a bell. In a luxury apartment in San Francisco, a tech CEO doesn't have a smartphone by his bed. Instead, his room is equipped with a $5,000 lighting system. As the clock hits 6 a.m., the room doesn't beep. It begins to glow with a soft amber light. This is a sunrise alarm. After decades of using blue light to kill our brains, we are now spending a king's ransom to recreate the simple dawn that our ancestors got for free. The masala factor here is pure hypocrisy. We spent 2 centuries trying to automate every second of our lives, and now, the most advanced thing you can do is go back to basics. These biohackers are practicing what they call circadian optimization. They wear rings that track their blood oxygen and masks that block every photon of light. They have realized that the digital scream of the smartphone was a biological crime. They are trying to find the human touch in a world made of silicon. But the real twist is the return of the human wake-up. In elite circles, a new trend is emerging: sleep coaches. These are professionals who are paid to monitor your rest and wake you up using gentle sensory cues. Some use soundscapes, some use scent, and some, believe it or not, use light physical touch. Does that sound familiar? It's the knocker-up in a suit. We traded the poor man with the bamboo pole for a consultant with a PhD, all to get back that one thing we lost: a peaceful awakening. The water bladder method of the ancient warriors has also made a high-tech comeback. Today, smart beds use thermal regulation to drop your body temperature at night and raise it slowly in the morning. It's the same biological trick our ancestors used with cold water, just wrapped in a $10,000 price tag. We are literally buying back the evolution we tried to skip. The ghost of the knocker-up is no longer just a memory. He is the blueprint. As we realize that the snooze button was a trap and the atomic clock was a prison, we are looking back at the 1800s with envy. We want the simplicity of the tap on the glass. We want a world where time was a partner, not a master. The high-tech future isn't about more apps or louder alarms. It's about We didn't just kill the knocker-up. We became the very machines we tried to escape. In this final chapter, we pull back the curtain on the greatest trick ever played on humanity. This is the conclusion of our 200-year journey from the bamboo pole to the smartphone. We are going to look at the terrifying truth of the modern morning and ask a question that will keep you awake tonight. This isn't just about clocks or history anymore. It's about your freedom. Are you actually waking up, or are you just being switched on? This is the end of the line. The journey began in the fog of industrial London with a man named Jeremiah and a handful of peas. It was a world where a knock on the window meant a human was waiting for you. It was a world where sleep was sacred and waking up was a transition, not a trauma. But we wanted more. We wanted speed. We wanted power. So we traded Jeremiah for a brass bell, the bell for a wristwatch, the watch for an atom, and the atom for an algorithm. The masala of this finale is the brutal realization of what we have become. Look at yourself. Every morning, you are jolted out of your dreams by a sound designed by engineers to trigger your fight or flight response. Your heart rate spikes, your cortisol levels explode, and before you even say a word to your family, you are scrolling through the lives of strangers. We have successfully turned the first 10 minutes of our day, the most sacred time of the human soul, into a data harvesting session for billionaires. We think we are more advanced than the people who paid a penny a week for a tap on the glass. But the truth is, the knocker-up worked for you. Your smartphone alarm works for them. It wakes you up just so you can start consuming. We have lost the human alarm and replaced it with a digital leash. We are no longer waking up to live. We are waking up to produce. Here is the question that will haunt you. If you can't wake up without a machine shocking your brain, are you even in control of your own life? We have become biological robots, synchronized to a global clock that doesn't care about our health, our dreams, or our peace. We have conquered the night, but in doing so, we have forgotten the beauty of the dawn. The ghost of the knocker-up isn't standing outside your window anymore. He's gone. And he's never coming back. Because today, the windows are shut, the curtains are blacked out, and the only light in the room is the cold blue glow of a screen reflecting in your tired eyes. We traded a human touch for a digital scream. And the worst part? We are the ones who set the alarm. So tomorrow morning, when that tone goes off, don't just hit snooze. Open your eyes and ask yourself, who is really waking up? You or the machine inside you?